Kraken is the latest U.S. crypto exchange targeted by the Securities and Exchange Commission in a series of similar actions being fought in court by other firms. Joining us now to discuss is CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day, who's also the editor of CoinDesk's State of Crypto newsletter. Nick, good morning to you.
Good morning.
All right, Kraken, the latest exchange to feel the wrath of the SEC. Talk to us about what the SEC is alleging in their new lawsuit.
Yeah, so the basic allegations are that Kraken is simultaneously operating an unregistered broker, securities dealer, clearinghouse, and exchange, listing a number of cryptocurrencies that the SEC believes are unregistered securities. And, we got a list. Again, like as you mentioned at the beginning, these are very similar allegations to what the SEC has filed against companies like Coinbase and Binance. And the unique kind of twist for Kraken is they're also alleging commingling, poor record keeping, and a couple other actions that they say would be prohibited under the SEC's regulations if Kraken was a registered entity. The lawsuit is trying to seek to enjoin them from violating the law. So, basically either trying to get them to register and split apart the business into those, core components that we mentioned, or, shut down.
Now that's not nothing. I mean, commingling obviously is something we've heard that one before. There was that exchange in the Bahamas that did that. So that's a pretty severe allegation. So how I mean, isn't that sort of like the star accusation, if you will, about what Kraken is doing, or is that just sort of a footnote in the SEC's complaint?
It's the thing that the SEC is going to use to try and make its argument, right? Again, we've seen the similar, core allegations against Binance and Coinbase and a couple other exchanges. With the Coinbase case, we didn't really see, any allegations, quite the same. With Binance, we did. And the concern we're probably going to hear in court, and this is kind of me extrapolating a little bit here, is, because these are the things that happen, the SEC is going, believes that it's a danger to customers and investors and whoever. Kraken's response in a blog post is that the SEC has not actually alleged that any customers were harmed or that any customer funds have been stolen, that customers have been able to access their assets. This is again a similar argument that we saw to Binance, and how a court might see it may well just depend on what judge gets the case. At least at this stage,
whether or not a customer is affected is not necessarily the issue, right? The issue is that once you commingle your funds, all hell breaks loose. I mean, that's like one of the most egregious thing you could possibly do as a fiduciary.
Yeah, I would imagine that's what the SEC's argument is going to be. But it's worth remembering that we did see similar allegations against Binance when that lawsuit dropped, and the SEC moved for a temporary restraining order to try and restrict Binance from accessing or moving any of those funds. And the judge who oversaw that case wasn't really convinced, at least as far as a TRO was concerned. So, you're correct in that, yes, this, if the allegation is here's how they broke the law, the question of what happened to the funds is kind of secondary after that. The core question is like, was the law broken? And the SEC says, yes, here's how. And Kraken's defense is, well, customers weren't harmed. But it really, at least at this stage, it really could just depend on which judge gets the case and how they view it. And also, I guess if the SEC moves for a TRO or some kind of similar, attempt to freeze funds, I think that was a big part of why the judge pushed back last time. But again, we're in the early stages, so it's going to be a little kind of interesting, let's say.
Nick, has Kraken responded?
Yeah, there was a blog post, there was a statement. Kraken obviously intends to, well, they say they intend to fight. I think he put up a statement on the screen just there. They disagree with the SEC's views. They say that the SEC has, made it impossible for companies to, quote, come in and register. And so they're, pushing back against that. In the blog post, they had a bit more, again, they said, the SEC is alleging commingling, but they haven't shown or alleged that any customers are harmed. things like that. So, more or less what you'd kind of expect from a company that's facing an facing a lawsuit from the SEC at this point.
So speaking of exchanges, Bittrex, that seems to be going out of business, or at least closing. I don't know what they're going to be doing next.
Yeah,
But yeah, what's going on there?
yeah. Bittrex Global announced that I think it's next week they're shutting down. They're telling customers to withdraw. They can't withdraw USD. Worth noting, this is Bittrex Global. Bittrex US was already shut down. And I mentioned that some other exchanges had settled charges with the SEC. Bittrex was one of them. Bittrex was sued by the SEC on allegations similar to what Kraken, Coinbase, and Binance now face. Uh, Bittrex settled without admitting or denying any of the charges. Shuttered the U.S. exchange, is now shuttering its global exchange.
But it's also that I mean, when it comes to this kind of a Bittrex was not like a small exchange. It's not like a mom and pop thing. I mean, it wasn't the biggest one, but it's certainly significant.
Yeah, no, this is one of the kind of storied, longer running exchanges. They've been involved in all sorts of things. Probably, I mean, the biggest thing I can think of that they were involved in is they had that massive settlement with the U.S. Treasury Department. I want to say it was last year over sanctions violations concerns. But yeah, they've been around a while. It just kind of sounds like, based on what I've heard from sources over the past year, is part of this might just be that they weren't able to really keep a profitable company going, at least as far as the exchange part was concerned. Or again, at this point, who knows? The SEC settlement was a massive fine. The OFAC settlement was a massive fine. Uh, it is, as you say, established exchange. It shut